Today on Thoughtful Thursday, my book recommendation is Fixing Broken Windows, Restoring Order and Reducing Crime in Our Communities. This book was published in 1996 and was written by George Kelling and Catherine Coles. George Kelling was an American criminologist, and Catherine Coles is an urban anthropologist and lawyer. Fixing Broken Windows is based on the premise that neighborhoods and communities decay into disorder and crime when no one attends to their maintenance and upkeep in a timely manner. The analogy they use is to imagine a factory or office or house in a neighborhood having a broken window. If that window remains broken for an extended period, people may conclude that no one cares about the property and it is abandoned. So, over time, a few people may throw stones at the other windows to break them. Other people, noticing the building becoming more derelict, will assume that not only is the property abandoned, but the street that it is on is no longer safe. In other words, not attending in time to that small problem of a broken window can lead to a bigger and more sinister problem of a neighborhood or a community that appears unsafe. I'm sure that you can see how this can be a metaphor for so many of the problems that we're experiencing in St. Lucia. There were several simple broken windows that we decided were not significant, not important enough to warrant our prompt attention, which unfortunately have now become large-scale problems that require much bigger and more costly interventions. Each chapter of this book looks at the challenge of restoring order and reducing crime from different but connected perspectives. Chapter 1 looks at disorder and civility. In that chapter, the authors contend, and I quote, "Most citizens have little difficulty balancing civility, which implies self-imposed restraint and obligation, with freedom. Yet a few are either unable or unwilling to accept any limitations upon their behavior," unquote. Sounds familiar? The authors suggest that while disorderly behavior is less extreme than criminal behavior, it can threaten social order by creating fear and conditions that can themselves lead to or cause criminal behavior. Chapter 2 looks at the growth of disorder and explores the impact that the growth of individualism and individual rights had on the increase in deviant and disorderly behavior. It also speaks to the dangers of confusing disorderly acts with poverty and homelessness. Chapter 3 takes a dive into policing strategies and analyzes why they have failed in battling disorder and crime. In particular, it looks at the 911 policing system and what that has done to police-citizen interactions, as opposed to what happens when police officers get out of their vehicles and connect with citizens through foot patrols or other interactive strategies. Chapter 4 is dedicated to the New York subway system, but it has lessons that can be extended to cities and urban areas. Chapter 5 examines community-based crime prevention. For me, this is one of the most fascinating chapters. Allow me to read a few excerpts from this chapter. It goes, "Community policing acknowledges the reliance of police on citizens in multiple senses: for authority to police neighborhoods, for information about the nature of neighborhood problems, and for collaboration in solving problems. Police work, unlike factory work, is not simple and routine, but complex. It is usually conducted by one or two officers in the field without direct oversight, who must use considerable discretion in handling problems. Community policing aims to develop administrative techniques that recognize the complexity in the work of police officers. Sergeants, for example, become mentors and coaches, not overseers. Their focus is on assisting officers in solving neighborhood problems, not adherence to organizational rules. The shift towards community policing with the accompanying commitment to order maintenance and problem solving represents a movement toward a far more aggressive and interventionist police strategy. The old model of policing dealt with incidents. A chronic neighborhood quarrel erupts, police respond. It erupts again, police again respond, and so on. Consistent with their reactive, unintrusive model, police are to refrain from taking action until the incident erupts. However, order maintenance brings police into greater contact with citizens on a routine basis, and specifically with offenders for a greater variety of behaviors than criminal offenses. Problem solving defines not merely an incident, but the problem that gives rise to the incident with its history and potential future as the fundamental unit of police interest and work. You could understand why that chapter was so interesting for me. Chapter 6 gives specific examples where the police were able to take back the streets in 3 American cities. Again, there are salient lessons there for us from these experiences. The final chapter is entitled Fixing Broken Windows. It compares the criminal justice system method with the community-based prevention approach. It provides an interesting statistic that 6% of young people in the United States of America who commit crimes account for 50% of all such crimes committed. It will be interesting to find out what the statistic is for St. Lucia. This suggests that there is merit in identifying the social and psychological characteristics of repeat offenders to predict who they will be and how to prevent the mayhem they wreak on society. Finally, this chapter reinforces the need to adopt a problem-solving approach to maintaining order and preventing crime. Given the situation that currently confronts our country, our policymakers, our law enforcement heads, and leaders of civil society and the private sector would be well advised to read Fixing Broken Windows. Granted, it was written over 25 years ago, but many of the recommendations in it are as valid and relevant today as when this book was first published. Fixing Broken Windows, Restoring Order and Reducing Crime in Our Communities is available on Amazon in paperback for $16.92 and hardcover for $19. Thank you for viewing this episode of Thoughtful Thursday. See you next week. Goodbye.